Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Abroad While Black, the show that really helps give another perspective of those people in the diaspora that want to leave their home country and live abroad. My name is Cordy Aziz. I'm the founder and executive director of Environment 360. I've lived in Ghana for 10 years.
And hello, my name is Sean Burrows. I'm the co-founder of Ingressive for Good, and I'm the CEO of Burrows Enterprises. And I'm really passionate about building an economic bridge between Africa and its diaspora. I've been living in Lagos for the last 3 years. Today we have an amazing guest, Miss Davisha. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Sean? And Cordy, how are you?
I can't
I'm
complain. Any
doing
day I
well.
wake up is a good day.
Nice.
And we were
Awesome.
just complimenting the feature. For those of you who know, we always have some guests that come on just completely fabulous. And I think that Davisha definitely hit the mark today. She definitely is giving Jackie O a run for her money. If you watch the Jackie O episode, Davisha can't see her and her animal print lashes and lip gloss.
Lip gloss is
Gotta stay ready.
popping. Give them.
Look, you never know. When my king, I'll be like, "Ooh, you over there, you come here." That one.
Very true. It's very true.
Well
You do have a
done.
lot of Nigerian followers, so your time could be coming any moment.
Right. That part. That part. Take an application.
Snatched. Awesome. So I guess just give us a brief introduction. Tell us a little bit about
Okay.
yourself. And then, yeah, we'll get into some current events after that.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on the show. My name is Davisha L. Johnson, aka Adjua, for all you people over there on the continent. I have two companies. One is a DL Johnson Consulting Agency. I started that in 2016 when I was an intern for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. So I run political campaigns. I've been running campaigns for the last 4 years or so. I've gotten a couple of awards and traveled throughout the country, going to lots of conferences, meeting lots of people. So I know a large part of the Black electorate that we have in the United States. I've also done some policy work because I started my other company, the Cooperative Executive Management Team that works with Black farmers, specifically in the industrialized hemp industry here in the United States. On the policy side, to make sure we have laws that are inclusionary of Black folks, just in general. As a business model, that's who I decided to work with is 100% Black people. So in starting these companies, I had to, make sure that I not only just talked what I wanted people to know about, but that I actually had experience in it as well. So I ran 20 different races. I'm about to have a conference, the first ever Ghana Hemp Tech conference in Ghana in 3 weeks. So I'm super excited about that. And then on the policy side of my other company, I just got elected the first Nigerian American to be elected to U.S. Congress. He's the new representative for the District of Columbia, Dr. Oye Awolowo. Congratulations to him. And he's a millennial. He just turned 31 last week. I'm a millennial, so we rocking for the youth, we rocking for the millennials, we rocking for Niger. We rocking for Niger, yes, that's what we're doing. So I appreciate y'all having me here.
Well done.
That is such
well
an amazing introduction. And I just love it when Black women are just in so many things. And one of the things that Sean and I have talked about is that when you look at people that are really sort of pushing the envelope and moving abroad and creating that new generation and that new legacy, a lot of times it is Black women. Right. And I mean, when we get into your story, I think you're really going to inspire a lot of people because I think you probably have a lot of hurdles that people instantly give themselves when they think on reasons why I can't move abroad. Because once again, you're already successful in the US, you've got your niche, it's going well, you have children. I mean, these are typically all the reasons where people say, you know what, I can't possibly pick up and move abroad. So I think when we get into your story, I think you're really going to be really inspiring. But before you do that, we always have to touch on a few current events. And one of the things I think that we definitely have to touch on is we know that Biden and Kamala Harris are now in office, and that's great. But you're running the campaign for the first Nigerian, first diaspora, first generation Nigerian elect into Congress. That's huge. So just sort of talk to me about that and even the support, because I think one of the things we always try to debunk, or one of the myths, is that Africans aren't supportive of African Americans, and African Americans aren't supportive of Africans. So just talk to us a little bit about your experience on ground running that campaign at such an historic time in the US.
Thank you for the question. So there's so much wrapped around in what you just said, and there's so much truth to it, but then it's a whole lot deeper than that. So there is a misconception, I think, that there is an issue between African Americans and Africans. I think there's a generational gap, and that's really the problem. So Black people globally, whether you're African, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latina, Afro anything, African American, we all operate in the same type of manner. It's just the things that our environment has been creative enough for us to do things differently. We all have the same type of mental processes. So when I'm in Africa and as an African American, I see things that I think are not normal for what I feel normal is, but it really is where all of our stuff comes from. So I'll give you a perfect example. Black people in America are late. We're procrastinators. We're not showing up at work on time. And when I went to Africa, I realized why. Because there's no concept of time. So we get that from where we came from. It's just a generational thing. We're still barbecuing the same way. Same barbecue you had last week over here for July 4th over here in Texas and Atlanta. They use the same exact wood charcoal, brick lump charcoal in Africa and Ghana to cook their food. So the similarities are there. I think the generations between how things used to be done and how millennials and youth now have the internet and social media to interact with each other bridges that gap and that divide that people usually talk about between Africans and African Americans. So when we talk about policy work, I've been pushing and advocating for Africans to be in politics and have a voice in politics for about 6 years now, really before I even got into politics, because my children are African. So I have 4 children. The oldest one is 23, she's Ethiopian. So I have one middle child who's 14, and the twins, their dad is from, ready, Sean? Ready for it? He's from Lagos. So they have 2 Niger children, two twins. So I have a deeper connection to the continent just in general. So when I started into politics, it really opened my eyes to, first of all, Black people are not all the same. Let's just start there. So there are different types of people just in general, but Black people specifically, because we've been moved around from country to country to have all these different facets of what type of individuals we all got our own thing going on. Even from Black people in New York to Black people in Georgia, to even Black people in between, and from DC to New York to Georgia, all these levels of are different types of Black people active. So I think, again, that's just a generational gap also. So when I saw Oye running for this office in a town hall, and shout out to the Global African Business Association, because they put together a bunch of good town halls, and I'm a global project specialist, so I have to give them a shout out. But they had Oye a part of the town hall, and I listened to him, and I was like, I want to work with him. I want to help him. He's young. He's got some good ideas. I know being in politics, what it looks like just from the hurdles of being a woman in a male-dominated industry, just in general. But in politics, being a Black woman, there's actually trainings that I've gone to about how to not be the angry Black woman. About this is what your makeup should look like. This is how you should dress. This is how you should present yourself. And people all over the world know about the election of Stacey Abrams, and that was a perfect example of what Blackness looks like. Even with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, people looking at her Blackness, and they've been looking at the whole time she was running. And the fact that the president-elect Joe Biden decided he was going to state that he was going to elect or have a vice presidential running mate that was a woman and was Black before he chose them. Now you got a list of these are the top nominees for Black woman vice president. So Black women, yes, have been running a lot of things for a long time, but I think the generational divide is the biggest one that's separating us. And I don't want to say what it is or why it is, but the ancestors created opportunities for the young people, I think, at this point to have a voice. And me running this election and him becoming the first Nigerian American to be elected to U.S. Congress in a geographical area that is not considered a state in the United States. So DC is not a state. So not only was he elected as a U.S. representative, we still now are going to have to fight the uphill battle of making DC a state and the 51st state in the union. So that's a whole different dynamic. But because we have a new president and a new vice president, there's opportunities, a lot of opportunities in the administration for people like me, people like you, Cordy, with Environment 360, people like Sean with his organization to do a lot of work in the new administration, because our generation is a bunch of doers and workers. And I think as we continue to see what comes up on January 20th, after the president is inaugurated and then the first 100 days in office, we'll kind of see what that looks like. I know I'm applying to the Biden administration in addition to working with Oye, because I want to be able to live on the continent, and I'm moving in end of April, early May to Ghana, and still be able to do government work and still be able to work with the US government in some kind of capacity, but still be able to live on the continent. That's my goal. I think there's a lot of people that are thinking about moving back, what their goals are going to be. And I would just say start with a goal just in general. But to answer your question directly, I think it's the generations that's the problem.
So for me, though, this is really interesting for a lot of things that you said, because so background, how Davisha and I know each other, for those, I used to work for US Congress. Davisha and I have some similar, one thing I pulled away from Congress, I know some amazing, like when I talk about dope Black women, I tell people all the time, like I used to feel like I was so smart until I went to work for the Hill.
Right.
And then I realized I wasn't as I thought I was. But through it, I made some amazing relationships with some really amazing Black women that are really like leaderships, doing leader things and what they do. And one of the things I did when I was at Congress is I actually helped, I co-founded the Congressional African Staff Association. And one of the reasons we did this is because people didn't know a lot about Africa unless it was a bad story. So now when I look at this young man that's coming in, first generation African, like you said, in a place that's really a territory, not a state, what type of support, or how do you think, other Black people are going to rally around him? Because of course we have the Congressional Black Caucus. So for those of you who don't know, all the Black members of Congress are part of another group called the Congressional Black Caucus, where they basically support Black people, policy for Black people, but also do a lot of community things as well to try to have impact. So now what type of support and how do you envision him sort of fitting into that CBC as a first generation Nigerian?
So people that don't know me, and I'm not sure how you operated when you were in the position that you were in Congress, but I have a very I don't believe in respectability politics. Let me just start there. So I think
that's why.
All right, wait. For us laymen. Hold on. What are respectability policies? Y'all over here having a Hill session.
House of Cards. So,
right.
Give his input from House of Cards.
That's a good reference. I tell my candidates that never had any political training or don't know anything about politics, I'm like, go watch Scandal and go watch House of Cards. Like, those are good references.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. I really appreciate you saying that.
Davisha, why? Now he's going to feel like he has
and gospel when talking to somebody that's actually worked in politics. Like, that's not gonna work.
No, well, yeah, but like the backroom deals, how like you have to have leverage, like how things, it's not just like everybody walks in and I want to do this and the thing just happens. No, like you like, what you got for me? Put this in there, let that ride, all that different type of stuff. That's what I was talking about.
It's teaching you
Wild,
strategy.
Wild West.
Right.
Yeah, that's
it is.
Like, yes. So anyway, Cordy, you were saying something about how
he's going to be perceived, because I actually remember when we were starting the Congressional African Staff Association, it was tough. Like, it was super tough to, if you even look at the members that actually signed on for the Congressional African Staff Association, we actually only had one African American member, the other two were white guys. But it was difficult, and it wasn't something where we were like, hey, we want to start this association, members riled up. members we thought would be really interested in it weren't really interested in it. I remember even trying to get rooms for events we were doing. Like, it was crazy. I thank God I worked for a committee on Homeland Security at that point in time, and my boss was cool. So I remember our first event, he allowed us to use the Homeland Security room, the small one, not the big one, but it was cool. He let us use the room. I remember it was such an uphill battle. So now I look at this young man coming in first time from a territory. I sort of am really interested in how will he be received by those members that are very sort of strict by the book, respect, don't step out of line. We see how AOC is treated. I'm just curious to how you sort of feel this dynamic will play out.
So how do I want to answer this? So yes, I don't believe in respectability politics, but I do understand protocol. So the approach that we've already taken, because there are these members, whether they be in the CBC or any other caucus or committee or whatever that is in Congress, there's going to be some pushback, not just because he's young, and the only other reference point is AOC or Ilhan Omar or what is Tlaib? What is her name? Was she the Tlaib? Is that her name? The other lady, yeah. So there's those people, but he's a man. So he's the only. He's not just the only African or the first African man, but he's the first Nigerian African man. So, in the dynamics of the world of politics and probably every other thing that happens in the world, there's a boys club. So our approach is that he has a second in command. His name is Habib Adatona. Shout out to Habib. He was there for a lot, and he's taken over a lot, but he's like his second in command. So he'll be going with him to these locker rooms and these sauna rooms and these dinners, smoking with the boys and all that other stuff. I'm the brains behind the operation. So I'm more than fine with putting together the strategy that leads into a much bigger strategy that most people that like our government employees, like work in government, they ain't worried about that. They want to get their check. They want to be able to do their job and kind of just go about their business. But people that are in leadership roles and that have opportunities like this is presented to Dr. Oye, we have to strategically think about how this is going to play out in a much bigger environment. So it's not really about, it's about the CBC members because of protocol sake. So I know that we need to send an email or send a letter advising someone that we would like to go talk to this other person higher above them and just giving them a courtesy call or a courtesy email or something like that after a conversation. Like there's certain minimal levels of protocol that we need to abide by. But other than that, I think our approach of, let the boys go have their boy time and have their conversations when it's time for really to get to work and figure out what the strategy of how we're going to integrate President-elect's plan for the Black community and how we're going to hold Kamala's feet to the fire to be a representation of that and what that looks like on a state level and on a community level in America, but also for those of us who have decided over the last 4 years or 10 years that we don't want to be here anymore and we want to move abroad. There's certain provisions for us that we don't even know about, that if you weren't in politics or making some kind of concerted effort to find, you wouldn't even know. So there's all types of loopholes and things that have come to light over the last 4 years. It's something I can be appreciative of the previous administration, but the only thing is that things have been shown now that we were never supposed to see. We were never supposed to know that we have access to this, and the third. COVID-19 has really helped the Black folks out, I believe. So all these different dynamics have, once again, back to the previous answer to the other question, it's a generational gap. So as the CBC members are getting older, they're also realizing, especially because of COVID, there's new technology, there's new things going on, they can't keep up. That's like blaringly obvious at this point. So if you have an opportunity to build an ally, and people like Dr. Oye, which is why I've been advocating for African candidates, he's not the first, and he's not the only one. There's 4 other Nigerians that were elected throughout the country from various levels, to city council, judge, to state, to Naquita Ricks in Colorado.
It's true.
Is the first Liberian woman to be elected to a state house in Colorado. So Africans are really blowing up just like Hispanics have done and created their own little niche over here. And now they rocking and rolling. Well, Africans are doing the same thing. And I think it's time for the younger generation of African Americans to just all click up and do what we're supposed to do. So I think he's going to be received. I think they'll be with it because at this point they don't have
tapping you on some of this. Yeah, and I'll definitely be tapping your knowledge on some of these other things because we know I'm moving into consulting this year. And one of the things is
Black woman, go get that check, girl.
To be able to leverage because so sort of like Sean, I also believe I think that there's so many opportunities and room for synergy that really are missed because we aren't working collaboratively together. And I think sometimes I tell people, one of the things I tell people looking back now, once again, I moved here 10 years ago, the landscape was completely different. You didn't really see people interested in moving to the continent. But I often tell people one of the key things that you're doing that you need to be aware of, particularly now in this climate, if you're moving, is don't cut off all your connections. Don't just feel like because you're moving, you only have to be on the continent. Like now there are, like you said, so many different opportunities and things opening up that you don't have to say, oh, I'm gonna abandon my job and everything I want to do and live on the continent. You don't really have to do that. And you know, we were just talking the other day, this is multiple streams of income. But I know Sean and I have talked about this, and I know I've really talked, like looking back, I think I would have, one regret that I have is I think I didn't nurture some of these relationships when I moved overseas because I sort of felt like that part of my life had ended, right? So if you are looking at moving abroad, I would definitely say, don't just abandon some of these relationships because you don't know where you're gonna find yourself, where your expertise is gonna take you. And you may be able to find other opportunities and create new opportunities for yourself in new income areas that you didn't even think of.
Right. It's a lot of money and it's a whole, I tell people all the time, there's a whole round thing called Earth. It's huge. And therefore there's opportunities everywhere. It doesn't matter where your feet are planted. And the internet has given you the opportunity to make money wherever there's a person in the world. Somebody's always paying for something, needing something. Something's always going on. Money makes the world go around. That's not just the
same. Always. So we've gotten a little bit heavy here on the politics. So Sean, I know he's itching over here to talk about this fight of my plane ticket to Nigeria. So I feel like we have to give him a moment. I didn't watch the fight, but I got the highlights. So I feel like I'm gonna have one or two. Devisha hasn't watched it, so I feel like we ruined it for her. I mean, but Devisha, really, I don't think much. You don't.
Well, first of all, let me just say to my defense before Sean gives his synopsis of whatever happened. I literally had no idea this fight even existed until I think the day it was happening, and I overheard a conversation, and somebody said, "Yeah, somebody wanted me to come watch the fight." I was like, "What fight?" And then I heard about it on the radio on the drive home, and I was like, "Oh, the two old guys are fighting." So that's about all I know is going on.
So
for me, my first take is, I think it was actually just a charity fight. But now you go ahead and give the highlights. But I think it was a charity fight.
Oh, okay.
It is, and it was a charity fight, right? So let me give you a little bit of background, right? Let me give you a little bit, because like boxing is by far my favorite sport in the world. In any other sport, when two people get mad,
let's just say keep your background within 2 minutes, okay? 2 minutes. We're watching the clock. 2 minutes.
Yes. Get your stopwatch ready, right? So background basically is all I'm saying is basically you have two iconic people, basically, who everybody who's like always who's watching boxing was like, if these two people ever met each other, it would be like some atomic explosion, right? Some nuclear blast, right? So it happens, but they just happen to be 50, right? So what ends up happening is like weeks and months before the fight is happening, right? You don't see much about Roy Jones doing anything but talking like, hey, Mike Tyson is taking this thing serious, so I need to take it serious. He's not coming in there to play. And then you see videos of Mike Tyson where this man is looking rocked. He's moving, doing all the stuff he used to do. He's looking like a straight up killer. It's looking like a straight up killer. And now when it comes time for fight night, when you're used to seeing Roy Jones, who would just punch somebody in so many different ways, hit you, do all different. He learned how to fight by watching roosters and would do rooster stuff in the ring while fighting grown men. Like, this is Roy Jones. He was epic, right? So these two people come in the ring at the same time. And what ended up happening was, I think like if anybody's ever watched Mortal Kombat, Mike Tyson just basically did like 17 friendlies in a row. It was like he should have killed him. He should have destroyed Roy Jones' entire life, because by the end of round one, Roy Jones basically was out of breath and was hanging on the man. And I saw Mike Tyson do this thing right here, no less than 3 times. And just like, he did not let the punch go. And it was like, Mike Tyson has changed. Mike Tyson has transformed into a better human being. He has found God, love, wife number 3, whatever it is, soy milk, whatever it is.
He did do that though. He went through a whole transformation. You ain't lying. That's fact.
He did. He did, because the
farm.
old Mike
It's that
Tyson,
cannabis farm killing him out. It's the cannabis.
Right, that part too. That part too.
Man,
Exactly.
whatever it is, whatever it is. Mike Tyson, he had these bursts where you were like, oh my God, it's about to happen. And then he would hit him, but he didn't do what we know he could do. And it was open. And it was just like, he didn't want to kill Roy Jones. That's the only thing I took from that. He didn't want Roy Jones to die. This is charity. If he's going to keep, because Mike Tyson built a whole brand around this thing where basically retired sports legends from all different eras and whatnot are supposed to be coming and competing in different things like that. And I think what the last thing he wanted to happen was to actually kill Roy Jones.
That's bad for the brand. That's bad for the brand.
That's bad. It would have been great.
Something that stuck out to me is that in his post-fight interview, he really was just like, it's all getting games. The most important thing is the money that we raise for charity. I was like, what? Charity?
Like I said, about the check.
Man, you knew it was bad at the end of it when they asked Roy Jones to his face, would you like to come and do this again? And Mike Tyson was like, yeah. And Roy Jones was like, man. He hit him when he hit that long drawn out, man, I was like, everything you say after that is BS, complete and total BS. He was like, it depends on what my wife and kids and Pensacola say. Because
Right. What
Pensacola got to do with your tombstone if you come in here in round 2. But anyway, I digress.
But it ended up a draw. I heard the highlight, actually Snoop's commentary. Snoop apparently also is building a brand for himself. So let me just say this. I love Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love Snoop because Snoop is so unabashedly Snoop Dogg. Like, this dude went from hardcore Crip, smoking in the thing, murder. People forget that Snoop was even charged with murder at one point in time. Right. Murder was the case that they gave me. Like, to all of a sudden, I'm friends with Martha Stewart on insurance commercials. Got a gospel reggae song.
Snoop Lion.
Snoop learned the game. That's what he did. He learned the game.
Yeah, he did calm down. I think he just matured though. I think that we don't get to see a lot of Black men left to their own devices in their old age, like popular, staying on the scene. Right. Like 50 Cent. Like 50 Cent is still wild, crazy, or whatever. People made a lot of stuff about what 50 said about voting for Trump. And I was like, first of all, half of us don't make enough money to even concern ourselves with what he said. Number 2, who is going to 50 Cent for political advice? Show me these people.
Now, okay, so if you can throw in Cardi B for political advice, by all means, 50 Cent is
right.
Let's just talk about this. I have that they be letting these crazy light-skinned women just get on and say anything because they light-skinned. Like, Davisha, I have this. Get mad at me when I say it. People get mad at me when I say it, but when you look at who's dominating political commentary, sometimes they don't really need to be commentating.
Hello, I'm gonna say I already know who you talking about, and we gonna leave her right over there where she is.
We're not gonna say Candace. We're not gonna say Candace. We're not gonna do that.
No, we're not talking about
the scenes,
Davisha. Somebody else, child.
We're gonna be behind the scenes.
Y'all got dirt.
I approve that message from Cordy Aziz. I approve that message.
Wait, do I know who it is? Anyway, moving right along. Y'all so messy. Y'all messy right now. Look, you can't laugh about it unless you're gonna expose it. You can't laugh about it if you're not gonna expose it.
It's facts. It's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. We can't be on here lying to people now. Come on.
It's the recipe. this is the recipe for giving political commentary. Like, be light skinned, be a little bit on edgy or slightly ghetto, and I mean, you in the game, you on national TV.
Right.
Once again, Cardi B, like, if that ain't enough to show you how Cardi B going from WAP to talking about Biden and come up.
That part.
Are you telling me are you talking to me all the educated women that you have doing political scenes that understand Cardi B is the most influential woman that you think? Like,
right.
It just goes to show that national strength to being a woman in politics is hard.
Right.
I think particularly, like you said, when you don't fall into the status quo or you don't do certain things. I tell people, I'm sure if I was one of probably a little bit more strategic and an ass kisser, I would have had a long political career.
Right.
However, though, after 2.5 in that piece, I realized that, you know what, this may not be for me, this game, because I can't exert my energy like this. You see?
It's true. It's true.
That's what
but,
it is.
But once you come over to the consulting side, which is luckily where I started, because I can't do that part. That part that you did, the Lord bless you, because I wouldn't have lasted 90 days. Because I know my attitude for nonsense and dumb shit is just way over. You can't touch that. So I don't have time for that. And like I said, there's life going on over here. So these kids running around and COVID-19 have these have these children in my house all day, every day, and I still gotta work from home. No, we're not gonna do that. So all that nonsense of the respectability politics that you have to work in an environment like that every day, I don't know what I would do.
Every day. But like you said, consulting is cool.
Right. You gonna pay me to tell you what to do?
You got to be built a certain way.
Right.
You got to be built what it is. You got to,
and then you can pick and choose when you want to work, who you want to work with.
And that's it. And this is why I move into consulting as well. So, and this is sort of off subject, but y'all will see. So if you ever come to the continent and you start your own business, once again, I've been so blessed with my business. I bought recycling to Ghana on a community level. Like, I'm recognized internationally. It's been such a great experience. But what I also realize is that, like, I'm not a play nice type person. I should never really, I can be the sometimes face of a company, but I can't be the everyday face of the company having to deal with people I don't really like.
That part. Because you see, my face tells you. My face tells you what it's going to say from my mouth open.
I can be friendly. Yeah, I can do all of these things really, really well. But what I cannot do is that when it gets to the nitty gritty and that person is irritating me, I'm just not diplomatic like that.
Right.
Is this like early onset cantankerousness? Is that what this is?
Oh, you do SAT work?
Son, I make
what is cantankerous?
Early onset.
Spell it, Sean. Spell it.
Say what? Y'all ain't gonna embarrass me today. I made up 57% of it. I can spell whatever I want. But I'm saying, like Cordy slips into this space like, I'm just gonna be disagreeable at every point, and you should expect that and deal with it. But I find that very interesting places. I think that's how Cardi B finds herself giving political advice. I think, just to take us back a step, I think that, well, here's what we have to consider with this space, is that she does represent and she does have the attention of a certain sect of people that you cannot simply just throw in the garbage can. So yes, she may be getting...
You see, I feel like we can have this conversation on that. We're going to have to move the button. But you see, this is the thing, is that you shouldn't, this is why I've always said not everybody should be allowed to vote. So, because if you really have to spin yourself to move down to this level, to try to, because mind you, what you're even talking about, you're not voting somebody based on principle, you're voting somebody based on feedback from Cardi B. I mean, let's just be honest. If you don't want to take the initiative to get to know the candidates yourself, to understand the policies, to do the thing, and then this is why Black people have been getting the hokey doke in politics for so long, because we go for who our emotions are in and not who makes the most sense for us.
Right. Tell me more about the political
just to add to Sean's point, he does have a point, but it's not even from the voting side, it's from the candidate side. Because Joe Biden made a very strong effort to make sure he targeted a certain demographic of people that was young and was not white. So if Cardi B can ride out with Joe Biden and, you know, all these celebrities can come rock with Stacey Abrams and Oprah can go knock doors for her, that's a segment of a demographic that she wouldn't be able to touch on herself that celebrities can. So Cardi B is also, to Sean's point, touching on the demographic that Joe Biden could have never gotten to. And the fact that they have Twitch streams and all these different things for younger audiences is why the youth vote is so important, especially in the last presidential election turnout that we just saw. So we got to start thinking about how do we, as intelligent Black women that are leaders and runners, how do we reach these kids and reach this next generation of voters without having to use people like Cardi B and leave her to be an entertainer and not be over here trying to be somebody else light skinned doing competition.
But you have some good points, but let me add this in as well. And the reason why this is important, I think that what you're saying is true, they shouldn't have to, but I think when you find that when they are talking to Black people when they're seeking our opinions, it's often predatory. So they're often looking for specific people. So if we even, no matter how many people that we educate or put on game, they're gonna look for the person who isn't. That's fine, we can do what we need to do. But one of the things that we need to realize, and I'm taking these cues from what happened in Lagos. Were you all familiar with what happened with the NSARS protests, the Lekki Tollgate massacre? I'm about 4 streets over from that. And what ended up happening was a well-organized, peaceful protest that actually put the government on his haunches to actually address what was going on, was basically able to be hijacked by people being able to give what locally here is about maybe $20, $10, or what the equivalent would be of like maybe 1% of your salary and monthly average salary. And basically was able to get them to engage in some crazy different things. So basically, I know that Nigeria didn't invent this. And I know that they're also using those people in America who are not necessarily participating or engaged with the political process. So it's like, if we're not leading them, then somebody else is. So we need to start playing those games, and we do need to start educating our people. Look at what T.I., Killer Mike, David Banner, what Nipsey Hussle was doing, may he rest in peace. All of these different type of people, I think is very important.
I'm not. Yeah, I think we've agreed. David Banner, I'm for. Like T.I., some of these other people, I'm not for. I want us to move past the point where we have show dogs. Like, this is what I want us to move past the point. I want to move past the point where people are passionate at a point in time because you see it as a platform to create a new brand or to do something for yourself, but you have a more holistic community view. So David Banner has been down repping for the people for years. David Banner is good. Erykah Badu is probably one of these other people I would be like, yeah, all for the people. India Ari, probably somebody else that I would be like, yeah, for the people. So there are certain celebrities when you say they name Andre 3000 from Outkast, like these are people that I feel like, yeah, they would be down for the people. So I think that it's really important that we sort of distinguish this and sort of give an opportunity to really move from this thing. But like you said, I mean, we have it in Ghana too. Celebrities, I mean, influence people's votes and do different things. I mean, if that's just how it's gonna be, that's how it's gonna be. But I'm just really not for it. So I think that that's just something that we have to really look at and sort of see.
Agreed.
Okay, so I'd say we take a pause until Davisha comes back. What is this?
They do. They sell everything in Nigeria. If you want it.
Where's the Christmas tree farm in Nigeria? I would like to see that.
They don't have
they're artificial? Okay, maybe there's some artificial ones.
They cost an arm and a leg for a quality. You can get a cheap one though for like maybe $100, but if you're looking for a quality one, it's probably gonna cost you $200.
Because they know who's buying it. Anyway, but Cordy, we're recording now.
It's the best. So 5 seconds and we'll start back up.
3, 2, 1.
So yeah, so I think that that's just where we really have to move past. So, but most importantly, let's get into Davisha, because Davisha, you mentioned that you have plans on moving to Ghana here soon. Now, this is interesting because a lot of times we speak with people that are already on the continent, but Davisha is like in the thick of her move. So let's just talk
Right.
about first your why. So why are you deciding to relocate? And sort of what is some of your motivation behind that?
So my major why is that I have two sons, two Black boys, and I live in the state of Georgia. So the climate for survival for them is not ideal in the United States, just in general. So the only way as a Black mother of Black sons for me to guarantee their survival is to leave. That's my number one why. Number two,
That's interesting.
I mean that it just depends on where you living in the state of Georgia and also being in politics gives me a real understanding of racism and how it's not just systematic for people to say systematic racism. No, this is strategically, generationally taught, understood, and in your face. Like
Give me some
still back in.
examples.
Okay, so 2 years ago they hung a Black man in South Georgia, the same way they would back in the 1800s or 1700s. About a month and a half ago, no, probably a year ago now, there was an incident in Cobb County that's on YouTube where a Black man got out of his car and had his hands up in the air as he got out of his car as instructed, and the white cop had him on the ground and was beating him, and the other white cop got out of the car, ran up to the scene as the other cop was beating him, and kicked him in the head. That's on YouTube. Like
Wow.
these are, oh yeah. And then they had just recently, I think this was during COVID, down at the in South Georgia. Oh, sorry. Okay. That better.
Sorry, I probably should have waited till you finished that thought to send that message.
I just want to make sure y'all can see it. Okay. That better.
You know,
That's
Davisha, professional. She got a whole backdrop in her house.
Yeah, she got a whole movement. Go on, girl.
I do a lot of events.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Okay, so there was a guy in South Georgia that was jogging, minding his own business. They did nothing to nobody, didn't say anything to anybody. That's all over YouTube too. That was a huge case. And the white people basically were in their pickup truck and rolled down the street with shotguns, like, let's go get this nigga and kill him. And they did. Yeah. Like that's right here in the same state that I live in. So to have a 14-year-old boy that's almost 6 feet tall with a size 12 shoe that's just as innocent as Trayvon Martin, and I can't guarantee that he can make it to go to this corner store by himself, not just to get shot by the police, but if there's gangs or somebody else that wants to do, like, those are not types of things that I believe in the several times I've been to the continent, that I've been to Ghana and generally, that I would have to worry about as much as I do. So it's kind of, the second part to the question is kind of selfish at the same time also, because I don't want to be stressed out as a Black mother of 4 children and then try to run businesses and then try to have some peace of mind myself to keep my own sanity. But if I can alleviate a lot of that by moving out of here and going to Ghana, then I just think that makes good sense. And it also makes good business sense because the exchange rate of the amount of money that I spend here on insurance for my car, I can have a nanny for my children. I can have a couple of different staff members. I can start several more businesses just from the money that I spend here just to survive in America. So I think that's the second biggest reason. It's safety and security for my children, and then it's economical at the same time.
Quick question. You mentioned something very interesting about bringing your son there, especially your 14-year-old son. And this was something I struggled with when I first moved to Ghana as well. How do you prevent him, or how do you influence him when he's bringing in the culture that he knows to Accra and having to deal with potentially not being accepted or potentially not being understood?
But first, let's ask a bigger question, because this is another thing I talk to people about when moving abroad. you're moving to a country is the same as a state. There are many cities. So first, let's even ask Davisha, do you plan on living in Accra or do you plan on living in other places? Then is he going to transport his culture into the culture of the new city that you've chosen for yourself?
Got it. So I'm not going to be living in Accra. I'm deciding to either live in Kumasi or live in Cape Coast. Because I don't want to live, I didn't move from Atlanta, Georgia to go move to Atlanta, Georgia in Africa. I don't want to be off the grid because I know that's not realistic for my lifestyle, but I also don't want to live in a big city and pay American prices. So again, it's economical, but also the children, I've been slowly over the years been easing them into living a certain type of way also. So my kids they're technology kids. They all got tablets and computers and stuff like that. But the 14-year-old, because of COVID, I think was a great push and a great help because a lot of the things that they would normally do in person, they're doing online. So he's a gamer. He's got a YouTube channel. He's been YouTubing for like the last 7 years or something. Shout out to Hilo123. It's his YouTube. If you like, subscribe, all that. So he's been doing that for a while, so that affords an opportunity to be at home anyway. And then with virtual learning, they're still going to be in school in the United States by the time we get to Ghana. So they'll finish out their school year on virtual learning. We'll have to figure out the time difference issue, but he'll still be able to finish his school year because of virtual learning. So over the years, I've developed new cultural aspects to bring into my household. Like they all share a room, right? They all had an individual room originally, but I changed some of the rooms to a gaming. I changed the room to a gaming room, and then I had all of them sleep in the same room. So when we get to Ghana, they can understand that there's going to be a transition, so it's not a complete shock to them. A lot of the time, we're going to spend in the house because of COVID and just getting ourselves acclimated with the particular area we're going to be in, which is why when I come next week is when I'm going to be finding where we're going to stay, either in Kumasi or Cape Coast, and go ahead and put that 1 year rent down so I can be stable enough when I get there. People don't think about.
I'm gonna give you some quick advice. Unsolicited, but I'm gonna give you some quick advice. Okay. Move to Cape Coast. Kumasi is really hard when you don't speak Tree. Kumasi is really, really difficult when you don't speak Tree. Kumasi is the heart of Ghana. Right. So when I tell you they love their culture, like they even have this thing now, check out Kumerica online. Kumasi thinks they are their own country by themselves. When you don't speak Tree, undoubtedly you have Americans that live there. You will definitely find people that speak English, but it is not easy to get around Kumasi and not speak Tree. You know, Environment 360, we do a lot of business there. We just opened up some plastic collection points. Shout out to my team for making it happen. But I actually don't even really go to Kumasi unless it's something major, because when you speak to them, they expect to be spoken to in Tree. Now I started the whole YouTube learn how to speak Tree episode. But it's great to go see though. I mean, it's a vibe. Kumasi is a vibe. So through all things, you definitely want to go to Kumasi. Definitely check it out. They've got some amazing historical sites. Even if you're coming to Ghana and you're going to Kumasi, they have some amazing museums. They have a war museum. In case you didn't know, they actually have the sword stuck in the ground. I think this is actually a stolen King Arthur story. You know how they love to steal our stories. Right. They say it's from the gods to the Asantehene. But basically, there's a sword that's stuck into the ground next to the war museum. Nobody has ever been able to pull it out of the ground. They've had Muhammad Ali, other people come. There is a tale that basically says that the day the sword is removed is the day that the Asante kingdom will fall. So, I mean, Kumasi, like when it comes into culture and things to do and things to visit, and particularly when you learn about powerful women in Ghana, Kumasi is an amazing place. The Kente village, I mean, it's just amazing. But me personally, once again, I'm sure you'll meet some of the sisters in the sister group that live there. I feel like Cape Coast, unless you're married to a Ghanaian, I feel like Cape Coast is the best transition point. Okay.
Do you think Cape Coast is better than Accra? Because like there's like different, I would say like Okay. Because I was even thinking like maybe like a Tema or somewhere that's kind of not
Cape Coast
necessarily
is
in the heart.
amazing. Cape Coast
Okay.
is amazing, I think. Yeah, I really like Cape Coast. In fact, we're looking at doing some branches there in Cape Coast now. I really, really like Cape Coast. I think that the great thing about that is like it's like Accra, but it's smaller and more comfy.
Mhm.
So it's like people have stronger connections. There's more familiarity. So a lot of the things that you want to find in Accra, like bars, American food, this type of thing, you can still easily find in Cape
Mm.
Coast. They have a strong African American communities. Another thing about the Fonties live in the Western region. They all typically pride themselves on speaking really good English. You realize this was the
Right.
first interaction point for British. A lot of them were basically half caste or have white in their blood. So it's been passed down over a period of time. So I just feel like, I mean, I really love Cape Coast. I think it's a really great area. We know I don't even live within the city of Accra. I live outside in the suburbs, probably about an hour or so.
Right.
But I love Cape Coast.
Yeah, I went to probably 8 different cities in 2 weeks the last time I was there in March,
Okay.
right before
So you
COVID.
moving,
Do
you know more than
my
me.
oh yeah, well, I did a Ghana investment tour. Shout out to Abayinga. So I take African Americans to do small business investment since March of 2019. I've been going. So every 3 times a year we go over there. So last time we went there was March of 2020. We went to 8 different places throughout the country to do farmer trainings and to go see people's projects that needed investment and all this and the third. So that was the first time I actually went to Cape Coast, and I stayed there. One of the people that came on the tour, shout out to her. We have our first Ghana investment tour baby. She is now pregnant. She's gonna have her first child. She came on the investment tour with us,
Oh,
and we went
nice.
out. We went out to one of those American bars you're talking about in Cape Coast and had a good time. Met some
Mabel's
folks
table,
and
I'm sure.
right. I did what?
Mabel's table.
I don't know if that's what it was called, but it was on a hill, and it was not far from where you can see the
Yeah.
castle. So probably
Yes.
it was around the corner from the
I'm
grocery
sure
store.
this. I think this is.
Malcolm's. It was around the
Yes,
corner from
I think this
Malcolm's,
is Mabel's table.
probably. But it
Okay,
was
so I
nice.
don't know what that. Malcolm is new.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Look, but we're gonna figure all that out when I get over there. But I did like Cape Coast. It closed early, so I don't know if that was because of COVID or not. But I liked the vibe. It was very chill, but it was still enough going on for me to not say, okay, it's boring. I don't have anything to do. And then there was all kinds of opportunities. So on the Ghana Investment Tour website, I actually collaborated with a chief in a Cebu traditional area to sell some plots and get some people that want to move to Cape Coast that don't really want to be part of the tourist part of Cape Coast, but still want to enjoy the ocean side, basically. Opportunities to do that. So I think I'm going to take your advice, and on a broad while back, I have made the decision to move to Cape Coast. Shout out to Cordy.
Nice
I think it'll
one.
be good though.
Also,
But
keep
once again,
me.
I think Kumasi. I still wouldn't cancel the trip to Kumasi. I think it's still great to go get the vibe, sort of see, because
Right,
this really is. I mean, Kumasi is its own thing. Like I really
right,
do love Kumasi. Before I had the baby, I would travel there probably at least probably maybe half my month was spent in Kumasi. I really enjoyed it. But I know that once again, as a woman, single, coming, chale.
right. Charlie, Charlie, oh, I
So,
can't
okay,
wait.
so now we talk about this because, okay, so now we've established you're moving with the kids.
Right,
You're going to keep your business, so you plan on being bicontinental. When you
right.
told people you were moving to the continent with the kids, what was the reaction?
Um, I think it was a typical why is the first question. Like, why are you moving there? What's over there? Like, I basically told them, and I tell people now, I'm tired of dealing with the nigga shit up here, just honestly. That's just what it is. So if I'm gonna deal with black folk shit just in general, I want to go somewhere else and deal with it out there. Because that's everyone's argument is they did this and they did that and they're scammers and they ain't got this and they don't have running water and they don't have life. And every time somebody says something negative about A place on a planet that they've never been to. B, the
Yeah.
only experience they have is watching TV, and that's what they think that Africans are, hanging from trees, ain't got no clothes on, cities hanging out, and all kinds of what. That's just what they do on the regular. All of these different dynamics that people have, I immediately clap back with a same similar example down the street. So let's say, oh,
Man,
these people over here, they be scamming folks. I'm like, but dude over on Vacare Highway be scamming people all the time. So what's the difference between that black man over there and that black man over here? Oh, well, they presidents, they be taking money and bribes. I said, well, ain't they called lobbyists on Capitol Hill? Isn't that what they do? Don't they
say
take a
that.
bunch of big money and ain't that the same thing? So I don't really see the difference except for an ocean. I do see a bunch of advantages. And then I started telling them, well, for that dollar that you spend on McDonald's, you could actually feed 4 people over there and be balling. You know that, right? The income tax check that you get to go buy that TV and that cash card, you can have like a whole business and a 5-bedroom house over there, right? For real? Yes. So I think everybody just
It's
gives me the
funny that you
natural stuff.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's so
we've been
funny that you say that because I remember one of my homeboys here, he put up on his Facebook status, because he also goes back and forth between the US and Ghana. And he put up on his Facebook status, like, if you had one CD right now, like, what would you buy to eat? And it was so funny because he made it think that like one CD is like 20 pesos. And come and see the variety of food we were all choosing.
All right. Right. That part.
And how much is one CD in USD?
It's like 20 cents.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for that, I can get broke man Kofi, I can get Burkina, I can get Blowfro, like the list goes on and on. I can get toasted coconut, like I can get so much for this one CD.
20 cents.
Popcorn,
Yep.
look.
The
Look.
same dime that you find on the ground that you walk by and don't even pay attention to in the US can get you something to eat. That's just the simplicity of why when people act like, why do you want to deal with the struggle of being Black in America? That is a fight and has been a long fight for some people. Davisha L. Johnson chooses not to fight that fight and spend the rest of my days on this earth fighting that particular fight. I have my own fight that I want to fight, and it's just not that one. That doesn't mean I'm leaving Black people behind, or I don't care about where I come from and all these other things that people say. That just means that I personally, as a human being with my own personal right to choose what I want to do as a grown woman, a grown adult, I choose to do business, live, and take my kids to another part of the world where it's safer for them. And it just makes more economical sense for me as a single mother to be in another country where I can pay people to do what I need them to do.
And that's a blessing. And let's just talk about this as well, because one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people when they think about moving abroad is the first thing they always say is, I have children. And here it is, you mentioned that you have 4. Of course, one is 23. She probably won't make the move with you.
Right.
But for the others, can you talk about how you planned your move having children? And what are the things that you think that makes it more feasible for you?
So I really honestly think COVID has helped out a lot, because school and the finite space of them having to get up and go to a place is really a big detriment in moving just from one city to another. Because that's the number one thing you think as a parent is, what kind of education are my children going to be able to have, is determining factor on where you move. So you go look at the elementary schools or the school. So I have 2 elementary school children, which are the twins, and a middle school age boy. So I would go look at the middle schools and the elementary schools to see what kind of performance rates they had, see what type of children go to these schools, because that's also a determining factor on the type of people your child is going to be around for most part of the day. So because of COVID, that's kind of X'd out. So that's a big weight off my shoulders. I'm not trying to figure out what school, therefore what neighborhood I have to move to. And then because I have the flexibility of moving them around, they don't really have to be in one particular place, which is great for me because I own my own business. So as I travel to these other places, I take my kids with me. So I was just in DC running Dr. Oye's race. So they were in DC with me for a month. So I didn't have to take them to school. They just opened up their laptops every morning and did virtual learning. So I think not, and just let's just say COVID didn't exist. One of the great things about having the 3 kids, especially at these ages, is that this is kind of how I grew up. So I was born in Houston, but when I was 9, my mother moved us to Canada and we moved to Winnipeg, Manitoba. I lived in Winnipeg, Manitoba from the time I was 9 until I was 17. And then I came to Atlanta, Georgia. So I grew up around all types of people that did not look like me. And with a single mother, and then came down here after I had my first child when I was 16 in 10th grade. So not only was I a statistic for African American teenage mothers, but I was also coming from a country where I didn't grow up around people that were like me. So I had a culture shock myself. So I can play off of all these different, and it wasn't a culture shock with white people because I grew up around white people. It was a culture shock with Black people because I didn't talk like people from Atlanta talk. So I had the struggle of fitting in with my own people, which I'm still struggling with as a 39-year-old woman today, especially living in the South. Some of the things I see people in the South do that look like me, I'm just mind blowing. Like why or why come or just I don't understand. That sometimes is not logical to me. So I think drawing up all these personal experiences as an adult is helping me also with my transition with my children and what it looks like for them to be able to have to go live in a different country because I kind of lived it already. So there's several things that I would advise people to think about when moving your kids is not just telling them, hey, we're moving somewhere, but transition their daily lifestyle and what their current environment is into what it's going to be like to where they're moving. So it's not a complete culture shock like it was for me growing up, and I'm sure it is most kids. They've never even been to Jamaica or the Caribbean or anything like that. Because I would tell people that Africa is somewhat similar to Jamaica geographically in the way that it looks. So if you've been on vacation to Jamaica or Bahamas or somewhere, then it's kind of easier to understand. But if you're coming from the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and all you see is concrete and trees everywhere, and then you end up in, Achimota or Tema or somewhere, and it's nothing around, that's detrimental for their mental psyche. On top of the fact that my middle child is 14, so he's going through normal teenage stuff. That's just hard in general. So him being a specific type of child, I think I'm blessed with the fact that he kind of is very individualized with his gaming and his YouTube. So he doesn't need a lot of social interaction to be happy. Because at the end of the day, you want your kids to be happy in the environment they're going in. I think my biggest challenge is going to be electricity because they want to play PlayStation still. They want to watch TV still. They want to have the microwave on. They want to have all these different things that they're used to that I can't really transition them out of. So I think that would probably be the biggest challenge for me is how to accommodate them in their living environment so it's somewhat similar and it doesn't seem like I'm still paying American prices. Because the whole point is to, be able to have other things that I can't afford to have here, like staff and a driver and a nanny and a tutor possibly because they're going to be doing virtual learning. But these are all things that I can afford if I live there that I can't afford. I wouldn't even think about hiring a nanny in Georgia. That wouldn't even be a thought process for me.
Sure.
I tell people, I don't know how people raise children without nannies. I mean, people probably don't look at this like, oh, but I don't know how people do it. I was just telling Sean, like, my nanny lives in, I'm so grateful for her. Like, I call her my daughter's best friend. Like, the way my daughter loves her, this is her best friend. So for me, it's really interesting just to sort of see them interact. But I mean, it takes such a huge burden off of me. And I mean, the fact that I can get up and go when I want to go and stay late. And I mean, even if I'm in the house and just want to take a nap, there's somebody where I can be like, okay, I'm going to sleep. Like, priceless.
That part. And specifically for being a single mother with multiple children, that's fantasy land for me. To be able to have somebody in the house that I don't have to listen to, and well, I don't have to listen to them, but it's not a spouse, basically, and some other person that I have to take care of.
Like my co-parent. My husband gets mad, but I'm like, she's my co-parent.
Right. That part. Because you and your husband can enjoy being husband and wife because you have a co-parent. I mean, that's a
This is it.
win-win for
She's
both of
my.
y'all.
It
Absolutely.
is. It is true though. When I got a live-in nanny, our arguing went all the way down.
Right.
So for those of you who haven't had children, or you pregnant, or you about to have children, marriage takes a toll on your relationship. It's not all gravy. You're always going to feel unbalanced, like he's not doing enough. I don't care how supportive your mate
Mhm.
is. He will never be able to do enough, like
Yeah.
never. So
Uh,
it's
said
true.
Yeah.
It's
Take that. Yes.
just
Write that
certain
down,
things that
John.
really only the woman can do, right? So like whatever you do, it's never going to be good enough. I'm just letting you know, like it's
Right.
never going to be good enough. And like
Right.
our arguing went all the way down. Like once I got the support that I needed.
It helps you in business. Also, it helps with your mental peace to know that there's always going to be somebody there to help with your child, especially you having such a young child. But I had two of them at the same time. Plus, the oldest child was still in the house at the time. She was 17. So I need a break, honestly. And I will pay for somebody to live in my house and give me a break. I've been having children since I was 16. I'm 39 years old. I got two businesses I'm running on two different continents. I need a break from being a mother 24/7, 7 days a week by myself, which is what nannies provide in essence. And it's not the nanny, because people have a misconception of nanny, especially Black folks. For us Black women to be having a nanny conversation is looking crazy to some people already. But this is the reality of it. Your grandma that watch your kids on the weekend, that's the same thing as a nanny. That auntie and them over there that you send your kids to their house every holiday because you want to go off and do whatever and have adult fun with somebody, whatever you're doing, those people are just like nannies. They're just consistent in the house that you pay to make sure they're staying with your children. They're not beating them, treating them bad, doing them wrong, and this, then the third that you would normally have to deal with. The person becomes part of your family. So it's a serious
I agree.
opportunity to get a nanny to be in your house. I think all Black women, especially Black women, especially single mothers, need to take advantage of moving to the continent just so that you can have somebody some help and some support.
Cordy, let me ask you this. What were some of the things that you did? I don't know if you've also done this, Davisha, as well. It seems like you're actually very knowledgeable about it. But like, what are some of the things you do to select a nanny? Like, what's the thought process?
That's an interesting question. So how I selected my nanny, so there are a lot of agencies around. I chose not to use an agency because when I reached out to a few of them, they seemed like they didn't have ready candidates. So it's like they were talking about that they did all this training and support, but when I was like telling them what I was looking for, they didn't really have it. With the first nanny I had when I came in, she was older. She was in her 50s. And I always felt like this will be good because she'll be able to sort of show me what's happening. Because I have a very young child, it's not good at all. I needed somebody with a lot more energy, somebody that was willing to run around, get on the floor, make funny sounds with her, teach her how to walk, have patience to feed her. Like I needed somebody with a lot more patience. So the second time around, criteria for me was age, ability to speak English well, but also the local language well, because I need to make sure that since I don't speak Twi fluently, that somebody can speak Twi to my daughter every day so that she doesn't end up losing her local language because her mother doesn't speak. Something else for me was sort of what is her background. So I got somebody that had been a creche teacher previously, that had been working with babies specially. And that was really what I was looking at. I think depending on the age of your child is going to depend on the type of support that you need in your house. If your children are independent, they can cook for themselves, do this type of thing, that may not be as necessary. You may just need somebody to come in and monitor and make sure everything is going well. But I do think that the needs change. But I think that it really is sort of up to the woman, the type of support that you're looking for. Some people just have people that come in and cook and clean, and they say that they do the children. Some people, my live-in, she does a little bit of everything. So I think it's just up to people for what exactly they want.
Right. I would agree with everything Cordy said. And in addition to that, having older children, I do need my children to be monitored, but I also have a child with developmental delays, so he's in special education. So he needs someone that can not just, make sure he does his homework, but make sure he's understanding because it's virtual learning. So I halfway need a teacher or somebody with a teaching background to be able to do the virtual learning part with all three of the kids. And then my kids are very active. So I need somebody that has transportation or ability to move around if I gave them a driver, a car, whatever that is, to take my children places. So I don't necessarily have to be running around everywhere, but my kids are gonna have to be able to take like my daughter's in gymnastics. So if that's not paying somebody to come to the house to do that or sending her someplace to do that, I need that other person to be able to maneuver my children around so that I can be able to be in my home office and work. And then, like Courtney said, if I need to go somewhere or do something like that, having somebody at the house on, overnight occasions. I plan on doing a lot of traveling. I already do a lot of traveling, and the amount of money that I pay now for babysitters here in the US, I can afford I can use the same amount of money I pay for a babysitter for 3 weeks when I go to Africa for a whole year to live in my house in Ghana. That's just the reality.
And that's real.
Say that
So
again.
one of the things, and I think another thing that's important, because I think after people think about the logistics of moving, the next thing is actually people always ask, well, what are the opportunities there? What am I going to do when I get there? And I think you're really interesting because you've actually isolated opportunity before you've come to Ghana. So can you sort of walk us through how you were able to create that opportunity before you arrived on the continent or in Ghana in particular to make that transition a little bit smoother?
So the first time I went to Ghana, like I said, was March 2019. But before then, 6 months prior, I had interest in agriculture on the continent because I realized that there was a year of return movement coming. This was mid 2018. So there was a year of return movement coming. Everybody was talking about going to Ghana, but I didn't want to go to Ghana strictly on the political side from policy. I wanted to stick with African Americans. The 2018 Farm Bill had just passed, and I saw all this flack about African Americans not being able to get into the hemp industry. So when I did my research on Ghana, I just went to the Google Ghana government, and most of these African countries have on their government websites, we need investment in this, we're interested in this, this is how much money we spend on that. Like all the information is there. So I just started doing my research. I found out the programs that were interest of the current administration because I used my policy background to know what that meant. And then I went there. The first time I talked to about 5-10 members of parliament on what I wanted to do in the agriculture sector. I went to visit some farms. I went to talk to a bunch of people. I kind of just moved around and made connections. I went there 2 times after that and did the same thing in different parts of the country so I can kind of know what that looks like. And then in building those relationships and talking to people, just the fact that I'm African American, I could have been the slowest, dumbest, don't know nothing African American. But as soon as I opened my mouth and people saw that I was African American, the amount of opportunities that are thrown at you because people in Ghana think that African Americans have like $2 million in our back pocket and money actually grows from trees. There's so many opportunities that it can be overwhelming. So I would say because I had a focus in agriculture when I got there, all these other opportunities came along, but I still stayed focused on the agriculture piece. But I also then incorporated all those other things into creating another opportunity. So that's where the Ghana investment tour came from. It came from that first initial visit with a focus in agriculture. So there's 10 different industries that don't cost that much money for people to invest in. Bam, as an entrepreneur, I said, let me go start this other entity. And that's where the Ghana investment tour came. So now that I'm moving in late April, early May of 2021, I'm still focused on the agriculture part, but then I developed a niche for myself in the policy arena. Since I've already been working in politics, I've already ran these campaigns, and I've already worked on policy work here in the United States, in Georgia, for hemp. I figured since Ghana is starting a whole hemp hemp legislation has been passed and they're starting to regulate and figure out what that looks like, I create an opportunity for myself. I think Africa, because the nature of the hustle of the people innately from Africa that live on the continent, is something that jumps in you and gets inside of you when you're there, that makes you want to hustle, that makes you want to do better. It's not a month to month, let me get this assistance, that third. If you ain't got it, then you ain't got it. So the hustle part in me is making it more exciting for me to move there and be able to move around and create these opportunities. But I did my research before I got there. I went several times and made relationships that turned into, this person knows this person that needs this, or because I already have these things going on in the US, leveraging a lot of different relationships and allowing myself as an African American to be leveraged, I think is very important. Because a lot of people on the continent, they just want to either get here, do business over here, have some connectivity over here. And if I can be the conduit or the bridge, as they say, to bridge the gap between the two and hook people up the same way I hook people up over here, then I'm 100% for that. So I think that opens the doors to a lot more opportunities where some African Americans get discouraged when they get there because it's so much not like here and they don't know how to adapt. I think the fact that I went there a couple of times, had a focus of what I wanted to do, is how I was able to leverage those opportunities and create the Ghana Hemp Tech.
But then something else that sticks out to me about what you were saying is that I think one of the major challenges African Americans have when coming to the continent is that they don't know the caliber of people that
Right.
they are dealing with. And
Right.
one of the things that I heard you say that I think is really important is that when you came your first trip, your original connecting point
Right.
was to members of parliament. Therefore, when you're meeting people, you have a certain confidence level in
Right.
what's exactly happening and what's being told to you. So why do you think that this has also been a support thing versus just coming over blindly, meeting some boy at the beach or in the village and they telling you what's good and you following? Like, how beneficial, or what would you say to actually connecting with the right people to find those opportunities? How important do you rate that in your experience?
Okay, so I had one of those experiences. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. I had that boy. We had our little fun time while we had our fun time.
I
He
know.
was my boy.
I
He
know
was
it.
my boyfriend. I had a boyfriend.
I
I had my little Ghanaian boyfriend. I got caught up in the. I'm a victim. Yes, I'm a victim.
Ah,
I'm a victim.
I love this.
I'm gonna testify and tell my story right now. I'm a victim. So this is what this is what happened.
Give us.
So I did. I went over there and it sounded real good. So you messed up for it. Now I gotta tell the real story. Okay, so this is what really happened. So I did go over there with a focus in agriculture to meet these members of parliament. But Facebook actually, some random African man private messaged me on Messenger, and I never answered them. But something just said, let me answer them. That he was the person that connected me to all these different level of pieces of my first experience in Ghana. And I'm grateful that I had both sides of these experiences. So I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been through that. And then I have the other side about the who you know directly and how you figure that navigate those waters. So when I went to Ghana, before I got there, as I was doing this research, I also spent 4 months on the phone every night talking to a Ghanaian young man that was from Kumasi, that lived in Accra, that his cousin just so happened to know all these important people and was secretary or treasurer or something to some chief somewhere, right? So he had a direct connection. So when I went to Ghana, it was on the invite from someone else that was heavily prevalent in Ghana at the time, and she still is. So when I got there, I didn't see anybody. I didn't
know
realize
who
my
this is
phone.
probably.
I don't remember what day it was or if it even mattered, but my phone did not work outside the airport, and I didn't know that. I just figured I can get Wi-Fi. It's America. I just like America. I can
That's
get
the number
Wi-Fi.
one mistake people make.
I've been a victim.
Number one.
Yes. So by the time I walked at the airport, I couldn't call anybody. So I go back inside the airport, and then there's black people everywhere. So I can't pick out the one black person from the WhatsApp picture that somebody sent me. The ancestors had this man walk up to me with my name written on a piece of paper and walked up directly to me and said, "Are you Devisha?" That is the only way I got out of the airport in my first 5 minutes on the ground. I went to this house, met with this guy on Facebook. We developed a friendship. And then that's how I met all these people. But his cousin is the one I fell in with. So the cousin, no, right. The cousin knows all these members of knows a member of parliament and a member of a certain political party. So he took me to meet this guy. So that was my first interaction with a politician. Now I get to turn on a Devisha that I know what to do and I know how to talk to politicians. Because at the end of the day, all politicians are the same anywhere around the world. They all need a little bit of, you already know what I'm talking about, Courtney. So I had that political conversation.
You don't even have to say nothing. We know what's happening.
So I had that political conversation with the man, and that was a development of the relationship between members of parliament or people in politics, which I'm comfortable with, and the regular local Ghanaian man that, oh, I love you, and we're going to do this together. Girl, I started a whole business with the man. It's registered in Ghana. I went through, oh, yes, child. I went through all of that. I went back to Ghana, was sending the boy money to do this and do that. Oh, yes, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm telling you, I got both sides of the story. Then I went to Ghana the second time and went back out there. This man, I had a whole girlfriend. Didn't tell me about the girlfriend. I found out about the girlfriend because he was still going to let me live in his house the second visit. I had left shoes and clothes in Ghana to make sure I'm going back. Yes, because I had a mission. I was moving to Africa. That was my mission. So if I leave my most precious purses and shoes in this country, I got to come back and get them. So that's what I did. So I found out this man had a whole girlfriend. He was all the things he said he was. I just should have known myself as a 39-year-old woman that usually dates men over 40, that this 35-year-old man in Ghana was not. So Blaze, you just have to have common sense about the things that you wouldn't do in America. Don't do them. If you know you can't date men younger than you, then don't go somewhere and try to be Stella. Just don't do it.
This is a word. This is a word. I want you to say that one more time for the people in the back.
Ladies, if you know in America that you do not date men younger than you, do not go try to be Stella in any part of the world, because it doesn't work for you. It doesn't matter because the cool, warm breeze off the ocean and he speaks the foreign language and he got nice white teeth and he's dark chocolate and he's telling you your queen every morning and carrying your purse and blah, and all these things that they culturally do anyway, is what you'll realize. Yeah, and he ain't special. All of them do that.
Let me give you a quote from the eloquent poet, Project Pat. Don't save them. They don't want to be safe. Let me repeat it one more time. Don't save them. They doth not want it to be saved.
He said Project Pat. Now I know who Project Pat is. That's a word. That's a word. That's a word. But yes, all men.
But it's so great that you had that experience, though.
Right. I've had the experience.
Yeah, but I'm happy that you had that experience and that you're willing to share it.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, my number one purpose, I believe in life, is just providing information. So whatever Black folks want to do with the information that I provide, they can, be great in their own way. But I just want people to know that this that you see right here is this all the time. So there's good and the bad and the all in between. I don't try to sugarcoat things and tell people, oh, it's gonna be fabulous and it's gonna be great. Politics has made me realize I'm like an attorney. So I went to school for political science, but I had a pre-law concentration. So I wanted to be an attorney. Anyway, I just couldn't pass the damn LSAT exam. But if I was gonna be an attorney,
Devisha, girl, we got so much in common. Girl, so another thing, Devisha and our birthdays are very close to each other. I also wanted to be an attorney and bomb the LSAT, not once, but twice.
I did too.
The only test I've ever failed in life. The only test I've ever failed in life, the LSAT.
I got a 143 twice. I said, well, how do you get the exact same score the exact same score, not 1 or 2, but the exact same the second time. That don't make sense. That's how I knew it wasn't for me. But
so I got
also
to tell you the full story, but I mean, I think I got a 142. And then the second time I worked in the wrong section of the book for the whole time. And then the facilitator comes around 10 minutes to go and she taps me on my shoulder and she's like, "You're working in the wrong section." I got a 126 the second time.
that thing is a beast. But at the end of the day, I knew that the argumentative part of me that wanted to be a lawyer, that fire that people have inside them to do that on the continent, especially in Ghana, with working with members of parliament, and I already knew that was going to be advantageous for me. So having all these different experiences, from dating a dude to having a bad breakup behind it, and being in Ghana, being stranded, having a tire blow out in the middle of the night, and like I've been through some stuff. So I want my testimony on Sunday in church.
AWD after dark.
Yeah, right. We're gonna have to follow up. We're gonna have to follow up. We're gonna have to do a part 2 on your story. We might have to get the dear Tay, the dirt. We gotta, because
people need we out of time, because I feel like we just hitting the tip.
we just scratching the surface. We definitely gonna have to come up with
on. Yes, it's definitely after dark.
But Sean also knows I got a few bad dating stories too in Ghana. I remember when Sean first came and I was dating this dude. And I remember Sean came back after they had gone to the beach and he's like, "Cordy, I don't think this is really," and I was like, Are you hating?
I know the place people first go, like people make all the different assumptions, but it was just really like, if this was like,
he also was younger than me.
I was like, if this was 15 years ago, this might have been something that could have worked or turned into something. But who you are today and who he is now, that ain't what you want.
No,
that ain't what you want.
No.
And I couldn't say it in a certain way. You know you have to ease it in when it's matters of
right. Right. But how are your? I want to know from an African American male perspective, living on the continent. Because what I tell my brothers over here is, like, I'm not one of those typical Southern built women. I'm more of a Becky built woman. So I ain't got ass for days and everything popping out everywhere. Now, general women in Africa do. Just regular folks walking around the street. So I tell my brothers over here, you need to get you some health insurance, because you're gonna have whiplash when you go over there for all this you're gonna be doing and all the behind running around everywhere.
Especially in Ghana. Ghana is the land of, okay, I'm not gonna say what I call it. But yeah,
butter. It's all, gonna say butter.
I was gonna go straight for the butter. Parquet.
Don't know what butter is. It's where everything is fly butter face.
It's butter faces. But I mean, like, look, moving right along, because that was highly disrespectful. You didn't have to put me out there like that. But what I would say is, just like we may have that neck snap, what you need to realize is the neck snap that Black men will create, Black American men will create when we start talking in certain places. Because there's an assumption that we are fluid. There's an assumption that we are connected to money. So when we start talking, it's just like, oh, and that's the thing that can get us going to Ghana, let's say, thinking that you're going to have this amazing relationship with somebody back home, long distance per se. Nah, partner, you're going to have your hands full.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you're less mature, so to speak. I mean, there's amazing women here. I think for me, it's an amazing opportunity to connect to African culture and kind of raise, potentially for me, is to have kids that actually have a connection to the African continent, have actual, not to take away from Black culture, but actual African culture, to earn the African American, so to speak. So
I think it's the same thing. I think the African culture is the Black culture. The Black culture has been mixed and mingled being in America, because that's really what Black people mean when they say Black. They're not talking about Afro-Caribbeans or Afro-Latinos. They're talking about African-Americans. So that's what we're talking about. Black people, when I say Black people, I'm not talking about Afro-Latinos or African-Americans. I'm talking about everyone, but that's not usually what people mean. So when people say African, that's that's negating the Afro-Latinos, the African Caribbeans, and African Americans. So whether people like it or not, I use the word Black because that is the generalized term for us melanated folks that look like each other. So whether or not you're Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, African-American, or African, I'm talking about you. So I just want to make that distinction when we're having a conversation about Black men, because when you go to Ghana, they call you a Black American. They don't call you an African American. So there's back to Courtney's question before about the disconnect or the divisiveness of what that looks like, because Africans don't consider us Africans, some of them. They consider us Black Americans, because I took offense to it the first time somebody called me a Black American. I was like, hold on, that's just why I say it. That's not, Africa's in me. I'm African. Can't you see that? Don't you see these eyes?
Well, there's this thing though, because like Black Americans act more like Americans than we act like Africans. And then you have to add on to the fact that the American culture is not one that meshes well with other people globally. We come across a certain way. So it's not even like we are readily accepted anyway. And then now we're trying to say, nah, I'm one of you. And I can see it now. We'd be like, he ain't one of us. Like, nah, you one of them niggas. Like me, I'm over here now with certain Black people, especially in December when people are visiting. It's like, I'm African American. I'll be like, you Black.
Because you don't want to be associated with the nigga shit, correct?
None of the niggatry. No.
Niggatry.
Nobody wants to be associated. Nobody wants to be associated with it.
And when
so it's been lovely having you on board.
When Ghanaians tell me, just one last thought. So when Ghanaians tell me that I need to come over to Africa and hang out, I'm gonna show you this group of African Americans that's doing really well. My first response is no. I do not want to go to Ghana to hang out with African Americans. I want to go to Ghana to hang out with Ghanaians.
You say that now.
No, I'm with you on that. And I'm gonna even those quote unquote successful people and brothers reaching out to you, you're more likely to be dogged by them than anybody else. They just be looking for an easy target. I mean, you just have to be aware as a woman moving by yourself that you can still be vulnerable. But I'll give you the 411, so don't worry. We definitely have to hook up when you're here, though. I don't know how long you're in a crowd, but we'll hit each other off. But thank you all for joining us today for Abroad While Black. I feel like an hour and a half wasn't enough time for you, Davisha. I think we definitely have to have you back on. I feel like this is definitely a conversation worth continuing. And seeing exactly, what other knowledge you have to go. Yes, I am. Year round. So it's been great speaking with you today, Davisha. We really enjoyed it. I feel an hour and a half really wasn't enough. We definitely have to get you back on at some point in time just to see how your journey is going and how it's moving out. But I know you're gonna bring great things to Ghana, and Ghana should bring great things to you as well. As always, I'm Courtney Aziz, the Executive Director and Founder of Environment 360.
And my name is Sean Burrows. I'm the co-founder of Aggressive for Good and the CEO of Burrows Enterprises. Welcome, and we bid you adieu, Ms. Davisha.
Thank you, Davisha Johnson.
Davisha L. Johnson, boo.
Davisha L. Johnson.
This is it.
L. Johnson Consulting Agency.
This is it. And Davisha, also, please send us the information for your hemp conference. If you are interested in hemp and you are living in Ghana and you want to understand how you can take advantage of this policy that was passed for the industrialization of hemp for various products, please make sure that you join the conference that's upcoming. We'll get the information from Davisha. We'll drop it on the page, but please make sure that you reach out to her and sign up for that conference if you're here in Ghana and you're looking for opportunities. I think you even have an online version, correct? So even if you were in the US and you were interested in opportunities in Ghana regarding hemp as well, this may be a great opportunity for you to plug in and link up and learn more about how you can create that same opportunity for income that Davisha has created for herself.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Please remember to check out our other videos on YouTube, check out our clips on Instagram. We post every Sunday night. on Facebook at 8 p.m. West African time, at 7 in Ghana time. I always mix up the times. Go ahead,
Oh,
Courtney.
John, I thought he almost had it. I thought he almost had it. 2 p.m.
Nope.
Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We'll see you next week.
I see you guys next week.